you, Allison and John. That was beautiful. Good morning and welcome. My name is Stephen Parapelic, and I am serving as today's worship associate. It's so good to be with you, whether in person or virtually. Please note that our minister, Reverend Heather, is away on study leave during the summer, and during this time our services are led by WUS members. Today's service leader is Dan Hermes. Thank you, Dan, for sharing your thoughts with us this morning. Welcome to your joy, your hope, your pride, as well as your grief, your fear, your anger, even the parts of you that are not ready yet to be seen and heard. We who strive to share a teaching of hope and peace, we welcome all to this gathering, the joyful, the heartbroken, atheists and Christians, Muslims and Jews, straight and gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, all who are searching, seeking, looking for more meaning, service, and love. I hope that by joining us today, you'll discover questions that stretch you, people to befriend you, and liberal religious values that challenge you to join us in loving boldly and living justly. After today's service, all are invited to coffee, refreshments, and conversation in the Sims room, which will be followed by a discussion about Dan's reflection happening in the parlor at around 11:30 a.m. At this time, I invite those gathered in the sanctuary to greet those attending from home by turning towards the camera near the welcoming congregation banner and waving hello from your seats. And then, those of you in the sanctuary, let's take a moment to greet one another face to face.
Good morning. The dirty coffee mug, the disheveled bed, even the full trash can. These are evidence of loved ones nearby. Impatience dictates our ire. Gratitude reminds us that so long as these disturbances remain, so remain our loved ones nearby.
The words for today's chalice lighting are from Robert Baralt. Enjoy the little things in life, for one day you may look back and realize that they were the big things. Now please rise in body or in spirit to join in singing the opening hymn, which is number 329 in the gray hymnal, Life Has a Loveliness to Sell. In case you haven't noticed, both of today's readings are written by Dan Hermes himself. The first one is called Imperfect Evidence of a Perfect Life. One morning, a man woke to the sound of the dog barking. It was the kid's golden retriever, still a puppy, with a lot of energy. It started barking early in the morning and wouldn't stop until sundown. Why did his wife want so many kids? They were constantly tracking dirt into the house. She never washed their dishes, and they were always in the sink. Now the kids were getting old enough to start bringing their friends around, and they were even worse. Video game sounds from the basement all weekend, and his cases of Sprite soda disappeared from the pantry overnight. He loved his wife, she was smart, beautiful, and he knew that she loved him. Yet over the years, her habits began wearing on him. She bought books new from Amazon instead of getting them from the library, and she thought nothing of a $200 salon bill. He watched the expenses scroll across the screen each week in their bank account. She brought in half of the income, but still, every time he saw the statements, he was reminded of how careless she was with their finances. And her sister would not stop calling. They were constantly on the phone chit-chatting about some family drama that evaporated by the next morning. The man had a headache, took some ibuprofen, and went to work. Work was awful. Complaining employees and unhappy customers. At the end of the day, he got back into his car and headed home. It was late and the sun had gone down. As he turned off the highway and into the trees, he thought he saw light between the branches. Immediately, the light was upon him, glaring violet and sea green, making his head spin and causing him to swerve off the road. When he woke again, he was in his own bed with sunlight streaming in through the windows. But there was something missing. The dog wasn't barking. Did the dog have a vet appointment this morning? He got up and went into the kitchen. It was clean. No dishes in the sink. The dishwasher was empty. He wandered into the foyer and noticed that the floor was clean, the carpets unsoiled. The door to the basement was open, but there were no sounds of video games, gunfire, or explosions coming from below. Then it began to sink in. His wife was gone. His 3 children nowhere to be found. The kid's dog not barking in the backyard. He kept a detailed calendar and knew his family's schedule. They were all supposed to be home. The family had but one car, and it was in the driveway, although he doesn't remember coming in last night. But not only were they not in the house, all evidence of them had disappeared. No book bags, no shoes, no toys, no trash, no anything. He called 911 and reported them all missing, even the dog, and went upstairs to double check. He opened his wife's side of the closet and gasped. Even her clothes were gone. He fell to his knees and began to weep. He didn't understand. Where did she go? Where did they leave? What will I do? Then he blinked his eyes in the violet and sea green light as he idled on the side of the road, of the tree-lined road. It was night again. He was so confused. Out of the light stepped a hazy figure. It lifted a gray arm and slowly pointed a long finger at him, then pointed to its forehead, then placed its other hand on its heart. Then the lights and the figure were gone. Speechless and in shock, the man started the car again and drove home. When he entered his front door, he tripped over someone's sneakers. He heard voices. His 2 young sons were helping the cat climb the curtains. His wife was in the kitchen, and his daughter was in the basement with video games turned up loud. He held back tears of joy. His family. He still had his family. Where had they gone? He didn't know. Was it all a dream, a vision, or a daydream? It didn't matter. Things were as they should be now. The next morning, when he awoke far too early to the sound of the dog barking, he stopped himself from scowling and relaxed. He felt peaceful, glad to hear the dog, because if the dog was in the backyard barking, it meant that one of the kids had left it outside, and that was as it should be. He got up and went downstairs, noticing the damage the cat had done to the living room drapes. He shook his head and smiled. He wondered where his boys were. He could hear them. Then he saw his wife putting her third dirty coffee cup in the sink. The yellow sun cascaded through her stunning highlights, and her nails shimmered with the elegance and style that he fell in love with years ago. She chirped good morning, and her phone rang. It was her sister calling to plan a Thanksgiving get-together with both families. The man thought about how he felt at those gatherings. Beneath the misunderstandings and squabbling, it made him feel like he was part of a large, happy family. He knew that shoes on the floor and a barking dog and cat upholstery damage and salon bills and talking on the phone would be different for him from now on. It would remind him that he was a provider for a family that he loved very much, and he would not know what to do without them. He would enjoy seeing his wife's new Amazon books around the house and her coffee cups piled in the sink. He felt a shift in his perception and the paradigm of how he thought of his new home, of his old home. He walked downstairs into the basement and sat down on the couch next to his daughter. He picked up the second video game controller, looked at her in the eye, and said, "Winner gets a case of Sprite." She beamed at him and initialized a 2-game play. "You're on, Dad." We will now shift to this time in the service where we share joys and sorrows. And at this time, anyone is invited to come forward to the table below me, light a candle, and share a joy or sorrow that you carry within. However, please note that as the service is recorded, it's available live to anyone who might be listening, and later on as a recording from our website. But if anyone wants to have a candle brought to them, either Martin or I will do so along with the microphone. As you come forward, please share your name and your joy. And again, if you'd like a candle brought to you, I'm happy to do that. Well, I'll start with the joy, and I feel like I've shared this with a few of you before the service began. My face is red because I've just spent a week on the Cape, which I've done for over 30 years with a group of friends. It's our annual reunion week, and it was a blast. And now I know what it feels like to be in middle school again, just belly aches and laughter all week long. So that's my joy.
Good morning. I'm Allison Kirchgasser, and my wife Sally and I just spent an idyllic 5 days up in northwest Maine near Rangeley Lake with some extended family, including our brand new great nephew, which makes us feel very old, who's visiting from Paris with our niece who lives there with her French husband. So we met Swan for the first time. He's named after a character from a Proust story.
Good morning, I'm Mary, and I may have lit a candle for this already, but after a long COVID break, is that better, Peter? After a long COVID break, my daughter was searching for her perfect job in her career that she wanted, and she started it recently and is happy there. So this candle is for people who are happy in their jobs.
Hi, my name is Kim Foley, and I would like to light a candle in memory of Dr. Charles Ogletree, who died this past weekend. It was a well-known civil rights lawyer, activist, educator, Harvard professor, founder of the Charles Hamilton Houston Institute at Harvard, and he died too soon, and he will certainly be missed.
I just wanted to share some happy news in our family. We've been trying to keep it under wraps a little bit, but now it's pretty much happening. Our daughter Becca is expecting a baby, and they were able to hear the heartbeat this week. So we're thrilled. It's our third grandchild on the way. We're very excited.
I'm going to ask Martin to light one. Oh, you have a candle?
I just wanted to light a candle to celebrate. Many of us have learned this week that Cheryl Medeiros is not going to be returning this coming church year as our soprano soloist. And I just want to light a candle in appreciation for all the richness she has brought to the spiritual life of the Winchester Unitarian Society, in addition to which she sang at our son's bar mitzvah, which some may remember took place right here. So, which just shows how ecumenical our church is. But this is for Cheryl.
And Martin, can you light one more candle for all the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken? We'll now enter a brief moment of silence, after which we'll emerge from silence and sing hymn 83 in the gray hymnal, Winds Be Still. Winds Be Still.
Our second reading this morning is entitled, No Twin in Some Multiverse. The multiverse holds for you no twin, no other, no alternate possible lives, just as the 17th century holds no lover, nor another hemisphere holds another mother for you. In this age of endless data, calories, matches, babies, and brands, it's easy to fall into the trap of bounty. Easy to believe that plenty promises anything at all besides more and more. Easy to swipe left and left and left. We can now see all the years beginning with the Big Bang leading up to your own birthday. Our universe, our home, was prepared for your arrival for 14 billion years. Countless organisms and animals preceded us for 4 billion years of evolution to arrive at your specific human form. So we live in a house that took 14 billion years to build, and we live in a body that took 4 billion years to evolve. And you have no other, no equal, no twin in some multiverse. You are unique in this and in all the universes. What value must you have then? What value must your friend have, your spouse, child, or lover? Is there a number large enough, or a metal or stone precious enough to equal their worth?
Last year, I spoke about the power of love to bring groups of people together, to align their goals, and even to merge individuals and communities into single organisms, working to serve the common good. The year before that, I spoke about time, how we measure it, and what our means of measurement says about us as people and as Unitarian Universalists. Today, I'm going to continue these conversations and talk about value, the value of human life, the value of your life, the value of the lives of your loved ones. Here's my Mary Oliver reference. Our wild and precious life. It couldn't be more appropriate to this topic. But why precious? She made this assertion without justification. She talked about the grasshopper, but she didn't really get into why our life is precious. So we understand what she meant, but the harder question is, how do we live our life as if it were precious? Does our worldview reflect the value we place on ourselves and our loved ones? Do we occupy, this is the hardest one, do we occupy our thoughts with manifestations of this understanding? How do we live each moment as if our lives were precious? Earlier, we heard Stephen relate my Christmas Carol-esque tale of the man visited by a vision where his family was taken from him, and from this, he resolved to purge his copious ingratitude and feel gratitude for any evidence of their presence. He learned to value his family, to understand that every seemingly annoying manifestation of their presence in his life was a sign, a reminder, even proof that those who were precious to him were nearby. For myself, this vision manifested differently. In December of 2021, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. The tests were presented by a neurologist as conclusive. The next day, when I went for my usual walk to Horn Pond, the experience was markedly different. I felt my feet striking the pavement and the wind on my fingers as never before. I was still walking, and I could still make a fist with both hands. My wonder at this was considerable, as it was sinking in that I may not be able to walk, and that I may not be able to control my fingers much, much sooner than I could have imagined in my life. Instead of sadness, I felt grateful for all the years that I had had feet and hands, and that I still had them now, fully functional, though the future of them did not appear to be bright. This could be said for my ability to control my entire nervous system, including my brain and cognitive facilities. Well, 3 neurologists and $30,000 in MRIs and brain scans later, my team of physicians concluded that they could not clinically confirm the original test result and could not therefore corroborate the diagnosis. What's more, the test that was used was experimental and provided many false positives and probably shouldn't have been administered in the first place. My Parkinson's diagnosis was overturned. The symptoms that raised the original suspicion were conclusively categorized as non-Parkinsonian. I was declared well. The realization that I was out of the woods on this was not only a huge relief, it felt like a second lease on life. I was not going to be robbed of control over my body's movement. Suddenly, I was acutely aware of the value that my muscles had, the value of my healthy mind, the value of my significantly prolonged life expectancy. I understood just how precious my life was, and just as importantly, how precious the relationships with the people in my life are. We are made to focus on our everyday life, getting our needs met, meeting the needs of those in our charge. There isn't always room for wonder or awe, but in order to accurately measure our worth and the worth of those around us, wonder and awe are exactly what is necessary. With all this in mind, I want to talk about how our home came about, and then how we came about. By home, I mean our cosmic home, our universe. And by we, I mean our species, humanity. I want to talk about exactly what took place to provide us with this home, and then what took place to lead to our development as animals, as intelligent primates, as Homo sapiens. I want to talk about how our home was formed, then how we ourselves are formed. Slide 1, please. Our current understanding of the formation of the universe goes something like this. Approximately 13.8 billion years ago, there was an explosion of incomprehensible proportions, hurtling particles in all directions. For around 100 million years, the particles slowly organized themselves into clouds, but no stars or heavenly bodies yet existed. Over the next billion years, gravity took hold and clouds of particles coalesced into clouds of gas, which further collapsed into large concentrations, which eventually became stars. The gas surrounding the star that was not pulled into it coagulated into bodies which eventually became planets, which orbited that star. Additional leftover gas and particulates became a planet's moons. We call these formations solar systems. Stars and their entourages were drawn towards one another by their gravity, along with other stray gas and cosmic material. These collections of solar systems became galaxies. Next slide, please. Now, all these pictures, if you folks follow the James Webb, these are all from the James Webb. These are not illustrations. These are real pictures of galaxies and our universe. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. As these systems are drawn together and swirl, it is becoming apparent that at the center of most galaxies is more than empty space. Next slide. There is a supermassive black hole, a nearly invisible collapsed star billions of times larger than our sun, but with such mass that it fixes a galaxy in the sky with its enormous gravity while pulling all light to itself, which is why these giants have remained hidden until fairly recently, even though they comprise the hub of most of our billions of galaxies in the universe, a number which has recently been upped to an estimate of 2 trillion galaxies. Next slide, please. These recent discoveries imply that these 2 trillion supermassive black holes were dancing around one another in our ever-expanding universe, and that the galaxies whirling around them are just along for the ride. That's an account of about 15% of all matter in the universe. The other 85% is called dark matter, and we can't see that, and we don't know where it is. So that's all I have to say about the universe right now. Around 9 billion years into all this, our own sun was ignited. Boom. This is about a 50 million year long boom. And thus our solar system began to form. About 500 million years later, the Earth formed, and then the Earth's moon. And this is how our home was made. In 13.8 billion years, by a process so mysterious and complex that our even most advanced telescopes and brightest minds, even with those, we've only just begun to understand it. Given all this, how do we appraise the real estate that is the Earth? Where are the comps? What is the value of our home here? Within 1 billion years of the creation of the Earth, something very important happened. Next slide. Life began. How the first single cells formed, we really don't know. But prokaryotes, which were cells without nuclei, appeared about 3.8 billion years ago. Next slide. About 2 billion years. The distance between the evolution between these two forms are 2 billion years. The first one is basically just kind of an envelope with DNA and some goop in it, and the second one has a nucleus with DNA in it. Recently discovered cells called Asgards also play into this somehow. Next slide. I'm showing you this because they only found these a few years ago, and they believe that these may be precursors to the other ones I just showed you. Theories about how these complex cells came about, and a compelling idea is that a number of single-celled creatures started hanging out together until they couldn't live without each other and became a single functioning unit that procreated through cell copying and division. Somewhere early in this process, DNA and RNA developed, the blueprints for organisms. From there, we know the story. Natural selection and mutations created ever-renewed forms of life that were slightly different than the previous generation. If the mutants survived, they became a link in the lineage of their species. Fast forward to 300,000 years ago. Next slide. The beginning of our species, Homo sapiens. Let's pause and do some quick math. If life appeared 3.8 billion years ago, and our own species started only 300,000 years ago, that means that Homo sapiens have only been around 1/100th% of the total time of life on Earth. 1/100th%. We dominate the Earth as a species, yet we are relative newcomers. Birds are the only remaining descendants of the dinosaurs, and they've been around 60 million years. Next slide. Cats are 10 million years to our 300,000, giving them considerable seniority to us on the planet. Our relative short, highly successful tenure here was made possible by almost 4 billion years of evolution. Next slide. You've heard these accounts before, the creation of the universe and the evolution of life, but I wanted to recount them and provide the latest scientific updates to give context for this discussion of value, and to explore what the word precious really means when it comes to each of us. Almost 14 billion years went into the formation of our universe, which included 5 billion of the formation of our sun and solar system. This includes 4 billion years of evolution to arrive at humans on Earth. That's a lot of R&D. Quite a science project. What is that worth, do you think? Can you imagine the budget for it? Something to think about the next time you're having a tough day. Even on our worst days, what are we? Next slide. Next slide. More precious than anything our imagination can even begin to fathom. You, me, the person sitting next to you, all of you watching this streaming live, your families, your friends, your garbage men, our prisoners, the president, the Pope, even Donald Trump. I know. Every last one of us required billions of years of growth and development in order to be here today, in order to be here for just a short time, building with our healthy hands, walking and running with our healthy feet, planning and feeling with our working minds. All these things brought to us by miracle after scientific miracle, and which will soon be taken from us. There will be a day when our coffee cups will be all that is left of us. In light of this, how should we perceive the evidence of life around us? The evidence of our loved ones and of all the other precious beings around us. Sunrises and brunches and smiles, but even dirty coffee cups and gunshots and explosions and indictments all may remind us that we are here in our home, free even. May remind us that we are fortunate to be at all. And that is why our lives and the lives of everyone around us are precious.
Thank you, Dan. The weekly offering is an opportunity of dedication, an invitation to live our values through acts of generosity. And in this way, the offering is a spiritual practice, a collective affirmation of our shared values and commitment to the mission of this liberal religious congregation. Here are the different ways you can donate. Those in the sanctuary may give cash, checks, or donate electronically. Text GIVE to the number in your order of service or visit our website under the Giving page. If you are visiting for the first time, either in person or online, you are our guest. In-person attendees can find a physical visitor card in the pew racks in front of you. Please complete it and put it in the collection plate. Information about how to give online and how to complete the virtual visitor card will soon be shared with live stream attendees on their screens. The offering will now be given and gratefully received. Those who wish to do so are invited to join me in reciting our affirmation of shared ministry. We gather not for ourselves alone, but to use our common power to build the beloved community within and beyond these walls. We create and reaffirm this covenant this day to make justice flourish, to practice compassion amidst difference, and to embody transformative love. Please now rise in body or in spirit for our final hymn, number 331 in the Teal hymnal, Life is the Greatest Gift of All. Oh, gray hymnal, sorry about that.
It is interesting to contemplate an entangled bank, clothed with many plants and of many kinds, with birds singing on the bushes, with various insects flitting about, with worms crawling through the damp earth, and to reflect that these elaborately constructed forms have all been produced by laws acting around us. There is grandeur in this view of life, with its several powers having been originally breathed into a few forms, or into one, and that, while this planet has gone cycling on according to the fixed law of gravity, from so simple a beginning, endless forms most beautiful and most wonderful have been and are being evolved. That's Charles Darwin on The Origin of Species. May we find gratitude for our privilege of humanity, for this, our bountiful home, for our families and friends and loved ones. May we find the wisdom and strength to exile our own ingratitude, and may we allow gratitude to transform the iron in our lives to gold. The service has ended. Go in peace. Go in joy. Go in love.
Please join me in reciting the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. This service has ended, but our life of service continues. Please join us for coffee and conversation in the Sims room, which will be followed by a brief discussion in the parlor at around 11:30. And you'll know that's beginning because you'll hear the gong. The people who are live streaming can use the same URL for the discussion as they have had for the service. Thank you.